And welcome back to Hawk TV, Episode 2. Thank you once again for giving us another shot. We're going to be here next week as well. We've already booked guest number 3 for Hawk TV.
Who is it?
Paul Allen.
Oh.
PA is going to open a vein. He asked me, by the way, if it would be okay if he cried on the show. I said, not only is it okay, it's preferred. In fact, that's what I'm aiming for.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen with you, is it?
Nope.
All right, well, we're going to try. So, first of all, before we get too far away from your youth, Keri Noble, did you play any sports, anything like that?
I was briefly a cheerleader.
Okay.
Which I know is kind of shocking because I'm not really that kind of girl. But I had a boyfriend in high school who was like the star basketball player, and I didn't trust him, rightly so.
Yeah, okay.
So I just decided, why don't I become a cheerleader so that I can go to all the away games and keep an eye on him. So I did, and it was exactly what I thought. Was it
really? Oh, that sounds great.
Oh, it was fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Where'd you go to high school?
I went to a private school in Detroit.
Okay, gotcha. At what point in your life do you decide music's the way to go?
You know, I was taking a lot of piano lessons, and I was singing all the time in church, and I hated the piano. I hated the lessons. I wanted to quit, and I took probably 8 years of classical piano, and then I quit. Finally, my parents were like, fine. And I didn't play for a couple years, and then I heard a Sarah McLachlan song, and I don't know, there was something about it. I mean, I actually should rewind. Somebody gave me a Joni Mitchell record, and it made me want to write. But it didn't translate it for me yet into music, you know, and to making music. Then I heard a Sarah song, and there was so much piano that I took like my little CD player and put it on the piano and just kind of started to sound out chords, and that made a lot of sense to me somehow. So then I started teaching myself chords on the piano, and then I took the words that I had been writing, journaling a lot, you know, that whole thing, and combining it with the music. And then I really just thought, well, you know, I got to make some extra money while I'm in school, so maybe I'll just play some coffee shops and bars and try and make some money. It was never my goal. I never set out to be, you know, here all these years later.
Really?
As a full-time musician.
It wasn't something like, for instance, I was painting light bulbs in my basement thinking and dreaming about being a rock star when I was 13. That wasn't you at all?
Not at all.
Really?
Nope.
Maybe that's why you're you and I'm me.
No. I think I just felt really lost, like I had no idea what I wanted to do, and I hated school as well. It ended up being the only thing that I have not grown to hate at some point in my life is music. You know, it's the one thing that I feel like I always want to be around it now, you know? So
was everybody always saying, my gosh, you've got a great voice, you should sing?
Yeah, everybody liked what I did, you know. I had a good kind of I have a good voice. I know that I have a good voice, and I was using that part well, but I also was writing songs that were like so angsty and so just like went on and on forever and ever, and that people did not like.
Why the angst?
Because I think I felt trapped in my life at that point.
Right.
And I had a lot that I felt like I could say in songs, but I couldn't say in real life. So I said a lot of it in music, and I think, you know, so people would always say, like, you have a really pretty voice, but these songs are so sad.
Yeah,
like, come on, write something happy, which has been the bane of my existence anyway.
Did those songs get you eventually get you recognized and get you out of Detroit and onto the road to stardom?
Yeah. I mean, I met a musician that's from here, actually, who heard my music, and he was doing a series of shows at the Fine Line. And he said, you should come and do a show, and, you know, I want to expose you to the people here. And that was the first time I got paid to be on an airplane, you know, to go somewhere and play. And I remember looking out the window, and it was just from Michigan to Minnesota. It wasn't like a huge flight. But I just remember thinking, like, I'm getting paid money to be on this airplane and go play music. It was the most amazing and just exciting feeling. And then once I came here, I just knew I had to get out of Detroit.
In the interest of time, I obviously skipped a lot in there, but before that, had you been ascending in the Detroit music scene or anything like that?
No, I didn't know any musicians. I didn't really know any musicians other than that one guy, and he was doing his own thing. So I was playing coffee houses and bars, and I was growing in that coffee house scene, you know. I had a little following going, but I felt like I had nowhere to go with it. I felt like I had just hit a ceiling, there was nobody to learn from. I didn't know anybody. I'm sure there were plenty of people that I could have learned from, but I didn't know them. They didn't know me. So I just felt like without a community of musicians, I would never get better.
Your first major record deal was with what record company?
EMI Manhattan.
EMI, the big record,
EMI,
one of the big record companies at the time. I don't know if it exists anymore, but regardless, at the time, that's a really big deal. How do you get from the fine line to signing a major label record deal?
I got a manager. We started, I had never played with a band before, so I started.
So you didn't have any time you spent in a van with 9 people touring the country?
I eventually did.
When
before
you
the
signed?
record.
Oh,
no,
okay.
before the record deal I did.
Okay.
They thought that I should kind of start playing with a band and get kind of versatile in that way, and put out some demos that were like more produced band demos. And then we started doing showcases in New York and LA, and I did some really big showcases where lots of people came, but it was clear I wasn't ready. It was clear to me, and it was clear to them that, it was the same thing that I had gotten before, which is you have a really great voice, but you're just not ready yet for this. So go out and tour. And so at that point, we took a year, and me and the band, kind of just toured in a bus and, played a bunch of shows. I did a residency at Bunkers here in Minneapolis, and just, and it was one of those things where the first couple shows, I think there were like 10 people, and then there were more, and I eventually did my CD release concert for the first CD that came out on EMI there, and it was like just, sardines everywhere, and it was just a cool thing to go from like nobody was here to lots of people here. Right. It felt really good.
Did you play a lot of empty houses on your tour?
Tons. I still have anxiety that nobody is going to show up.
Right.
I always. And that's like the worst, I don't, my anxiety isn't so much that I'm going to mess up. It's what if nobody shows up, But, after I did, a year of kind of traveling and working on my stage presence and things, then we did just a few more showcases, and one of the showcases, oddly enough, the guys that signed Norah Jones, who are like huge heavy hitters, one has passed away, but huge heavy hitters in the music business, saw me and wanted me to come back to New York and play solo. So all of that work with the band, and then they just wanted to hear me and my songs. But I think I needed to go out and do all of that stuff to get more comfortable, because the solo stuff I had, but the other stuff I needed to develop. And that's what got me the record deal.
You got the record deal, and you talked about putting out that first record. What was the name of the first record?
Fearless.
And is that the one that was that a home run immediately?
No, I don't think anything I've done has been a home run, to be quite honest. I
disagree on that, but did you have a single?
I did have a single. It was called Talk to Me.
Yeah.
And that record took me all over the world. I toured Japan several times, Spain, Europe. I did Hong Kong, Australia, New Zealand, all of America.
On tour with other bands or by yourself?
By myself mostly. It was mostly promoting the record, kind of doing TV and radio and showcases, things like that. Yeah, it was. I wasn't home very much for about 3 years.
Yeah, but was that okay? Did you love that?
There were parts of it that I loved. I think you and I are just so different. I think you live and die to be on stage.
I do.
I live and die to write. So the performance part of things is like, I enjoy it much more now than I used to, I think, because I'm doing it more on my terms. But no, I didn't love it. Plus, I felt a lot of pressure from the label. I didn't realize at the time that they were kind of looking for another Norah.
Okay.
And I don't know that they consciously were like, another Norah, but that's the pressure that I had. And they wanted a lot of ballads. And at that point, I had been on the road with Johnny Lang. I'd opened for a guy named Bob Schneider, who I love. I love Bob Schneider. Lots of guys. Somehow I ended up getting these tours where I was opening for guys. So their audiences were a lot of men, frat guys, lots of guys, which might explain things on KFAN.
Yeah, for sure. Right.
So I realized really quickly, nobody wants to hear me do quiet, soft ballads. Yeah. And that's where I learned how to use my voice to sing soul music, bluesy stuff, kind of dig into the piano a little bit. And then at that point, that's when I started loving playing shows, because that was more fun. But that's when they lost interest.
Was that your biggest selling record?
Yes, I think it is. Yeah.
Billboard charts, all that jazz?
I don't remember.
Right?
I don't remember.
See, that would be something that I would have all over. I would have it tattooed on my arm, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. I know Billboard reviewed it positively.
Right.
And Rolling Stone
And you made
did.
it on television, right? I mean, that was the big thing. What television?
No, I wasn't on television for Fearless.
Oh, you weren't?
It was the next record.
What song was it that made it on television, and what show?
Emily was on Grey's Anatomy, and I was on the early show on CBS. Singing Emily.
Yeah?
Yeah. That was the next record. That was really cool.
Yeah?
That was really, I mean, it's scary.
Yeah.
So freaking scary, but it was just so fun,
right.
you know, to feel like, wow, this is national television.
So, I had written down, and I showed her the questions beforehand, so I'm not springing anything on you, but I was thinking of nice ways to ask this question.
Yeah, I know where you're going.
You know what I'm saying, right? At what point did the national trajectory of your career start to go from going here to going there?
Yeah,
that's a tough question to ask, but
I don't feel
but you know what though? It's not as tough now hearing you talk, because it sounds to me like you never aimed to be a giant pop star.
I never did, and I think the closer that we got to it, the more uncomfortable I was. I don't think that I sabotaged it, but I think the next record on EMI was being pushed heavily to be another. I think they wanted Fearless 2. They wanted me to make the same record,
right?
And I just could not do it. I had moved on. I wanted to do more of the stuff that I'd been doing on the road, and I did something that probably ended my chances.
What was that?
I left the label.
You left the label?
Yeah. I had the head of the label sending me an email saying, is there anything that we can do to change your mind? And I felt so sure that I'd rather wait tables than...
That's amazing to me, Keri.
I would rather wait tables than to put out music that I didn't care about.
I would imagine that there are, and you're talking to one of them, 20,000 people.
I know.
In the country, 300,000 who would do anything to have that opportunity.
I know, and it's not that I wasn't grateful.
Yeah.
I really was grateful. I am grateful. I feel like the reason that I still have a career is from that first record.
Right.
Because it put my name out to enough people that allowed me to get another record deal and then eventually do my own thing, which is what I do now. I'm really grateful, and I feel very blessed. But I also feel like when you do things that you don't want to do, people can tell. And I didn't come to music because I was dying to be a musician. I came to music because I felt like I had to get these words out of my head and these emotions out of my body. I mean, and that's what I wanted to do. And I feel like I would rather, I meant it, I said it then, and I still say I would rather, do music on my terms, because music is to me, it's like I can go on the radio and I can be silly and I can do all that stuff, and you can tell me afterwards, hey, in radio we need you to do this differently or do that differently, or you didn't nail it this time or whatever, and I can take that and want to do better and do a good job. But in music, I feel like that's mine.
Wow.
It's mine.
No regrets?
I
Not
don't.
even a little bit of regret?
As I get older, like I think one of your questions, I'm sorry, I'm going to jump to it.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
If I had a kid, would I want them to get into the music business? If I had a kid who was like you, who was dying to be full-time musician, living that life, it's a scary world, but I would say, yeah, go for it, for sure. And then I would tell them, you will have to compromise. There will just be compromise,
right.
And if you want that bad enough, you'll make those compromises, and you'll be okay.
You're not willing to do that?
I just don't love music for that. I love music because it makes me feel something real. It feels, I don't make happy, silly music, which is I listen to it. I love cheap pop. I love it. And I know every song that if we ever had a pop culture like, 90s and today kind of music, I know all of it and I love it. But that's not what makes me want to make music. So, no, I don't have any regrets.
That's fascinating. And maybe that's what separates a true artist from a wannabe.
I think you're a true artist.
No,
too,
you know
Chris.
what I mean, though. I don't have the scruples, man. I literally would sing a song about Donkey Kong if it would get me out on the road. I swear to you, I would. And maybe that's what separates a true artist from wannabe. Maybe it is. And that's okay. That's cool. Well, that's fascinating. Keri Noble's my guest. It's episode 2 of Hawk TV. We're going to break again. We're going to come back with quick questions and our special musical guest right here on Hawk TV on the Fan.